And 2 locations here in the Jackson Metro, Canton and Pearl. AgUp.com, Mississippi Ag. All of our guests join us on the Dos Equis guest line. We want to welcome in former LSU great. He's with the SEC Network and the Baltimore Orioles broadcast. He is Ben McDonald on the Out of Bounds Show. Ben, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing well. Thanks for your time today. Let's jump right into it. LSU has owned this series with Mississippi State, winning 12 of the last 13. I heard some of your comments last week complimenting the Mississippi State pitching staff. Now that you got to see them up close and call 2 of the games, what was your takeaway from the MSU pitching staff?
Well, as good as advertised. They played a pretty tough schedule, a little tougher than what LSU played in the pre-SEC schedule, but you look at the numbers and, coming in, the numbers they were putting up, I think, even after Friday night, I think 9-0, had won 9 in a row after Saturday, rather, and I think they'd only given up 5 runs in those 9 games, which is just an incredible number. The strikeouts for 9 innings was there again. I think they're right at the top of the nation in that. They just don't give up runs, and it almost reminds me of the way the big league game is going these days, where, the average American League starting pitcher last year didn't even make it through 5 innings. They averaged 4 1/3 innings, and then came the power arms out of the bullpen. I think, Mississippi State started. Now that Bednar is back, we know he missed some time with a neck issue, but he looked really good in his first SEC start. McLeod is really good. I love the way he pitches and moves the ball around. And Saratoga, there's a question mark there, right? I mean,
Sure.
You don't question the stuff. The stuff is there. And look, if he gets it going, he could be as dominant as anybody. But you wonder, does Coach Lim make that move? Maybe go back to the freshman Fristow until Saratoga gets it going. So that's a little bit of a question mark for them. But on the other hand, because the bullpen is so deep for Mississippi State, they don't need their starters to go more than 5 innings. They get 5 out of their starters, I think they're in pretty good shape. But I think Bednar and certainly McLeod is going to give you more than 5 every time they hop on the bump. So I like where State is right now. The offense, to me, it doesn't jump at you off the page as far as home runs and batting average and all that kind of stuff. But it's a veteran lineup that just knows how to win. And I said that these kids understand that if the leadoff guy gets a double, all I got to do is hit a ground ball to the right side. I got to move him over to third base. And so they know how to win. And you put the situational hitting together this weekend, they did a really good job of it this past weekend. And I think State's not going anywhere. They're going to be a team, assuming everybody stays healthy, and especially, if you get Saratoga going, it's going to be a team that's going to be in Omaha again, I believe.
He is Ben McDonald. He called game 1 and 2 this weekend, Tigers and Bulldogs. He joins us on the Dos Equis guest line. As far as Bednar and McLeod, Ben, who were you more impressed with?
That's a tough one. McLeod evidently has a lot of analytical numbers. He kind of reminds me of Small in some ways, because you don't see 94, 95 from him. You see 88 to 91, but I think he hides the ball really good. I don't think hitters pick it up, and he has some analytical spin to it, evidently, because you saw LSU swing through a lot of fastballs on him. But I love the way he moved his fastball in and out and used his off-speed pitches. To me, he's a real Friday night ace. And look, Bednar is just going to get better from here. You got to remember, taking some time off, sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get your rhythm going. But Bednar showed a mid-90s fastball at times. It has some explosiveness to it, a good breaking ball as well. So I wouldn't be afraid to run either one of those guys out there. I mean, to me, they're 2 real aces, and they can shut down any opposing team.
How would you we know LSU's always loaded and has the talent, best baseball program the last 30 or so years in college baseball, but how would you describe this squad this year, Ben?
It's got some question marks. There's no doubt about that. Let's start with the position player group. It is a young group. I mean, only Cade Veloso, who lost his DH spot yesterday, didn't even start the game, really has only been an everyday starter for LSU and actually really seen a lot of SEC play. The rest of these kids are young. I don't think anybody else had more than 50 at-bats, coming into the season. So I call them young and dangerous. They're dangerous in a lot of ways, but they're also a team that doesn't have a ton of experience either at the plate. And so they're going to have their ups and downs. I mean, they can blow a ball out of the ballpark. We know they lead the nation in home runs, and they hit a couple of them yesterday, and they can do that to you. But it's a lot of growing. I mean, you're starting a true freshman leading off from Trey Morgan at first base. Dylan Cruz is uber talented and, in right field. He's a true freshman. You got a true freshman shortstop as well. And some other guys that just hadn't played a whole lot, And so I think LSU is going to be better the second half of the season than they are the first half of the season in SEC play, because I think those freshmen will begin to grow up and understand what SEC pitching is all about. And look, make no mistake about it, when you get to conference play, and they saw it this weekend, the price of peanuts go way up when it comes to face of pitches. I mean, it's real. And they got Vanderbilt coming to town, in 2 weekends, and they're going to see Kumar Rocker and Leiter and that bunch, And so, look, it's going to be tough for LSU. The key for LSU is I like their starters. I think Hill, I think Labus, and don't forget, I call him the little engine that could. Landon Marceau has still not given up an earned run this year. Leiter and Rocker's getting all the credit around the country, and they deserve it. This kid's out pitching him right now. He hadn't given up an earned run. So I like where LSU's weekend rotation is. The question I have is the bridge to get to the back end, to get to Fontenot, who started off struggling a little bit and seems to be pitching better now. And there's a freshman down there that's doing his thing too. Kid by the name of Garrett Edwards has a couple saves. So LSU's talented in the bullpen. They've got 4 or 5 real freshmen down there. But again, they are freshmen at the end of the day. So that's the biggest concern for me is LSU's bullpen at this point.
Ben McDonald on the Out of Bounds show and the Dos Equis guest line talking SEC baseball. Let's go back to Jayden Hill. I mean, that guy, talented, stuff's electric. Talk a little bit about him.
Jayden Hill, you hit the nail on the head. Talent is what you see. Athleticism is what you see from him. My concern for him going in, and it's shown up a little bit, was this young man had 21 collegiate innings under his belt going into his junior year this year, where he is supposed to be a top 5 pick in the country. He pitched 2 starts his freshman year when the season began, didn't pitch again. Last year he was in the bullpen coming back from an injury when COVID hit. So he doesn't have a ton of experience. He faced SEC hitters for the very first time on Friday night. And as we know, Friday nights are different animals in the SEC. You are the tone setter for your team to go out and give your team a chance to win. And I thought he did that for the most part. He ran out of gas a little bit, at the end. I love the fastball. We've seen it up to 98. The changeup can be really nasty, and the breaking ball too. But I just think he needs experience is what he is missing right now. You don't question the stuff. It's kind of like Sarantola, and he certainly commands it better than what Sarantola does right now. But he just needs some experience on Friday nights, and I think he'll be better too as he gets through this SEC schedule and he starts to figure out what SEC hitters are all about.
Who are your top 4 teams in the league?
Well, I mean, look, you can't get away. Florida has been kind of flying a little under the radar, if that's possible for a top 5 team, right? I mean, they were number 1 and got beat by a very good Miami team 2 or 3 opening weekend of college baseball, and we kind of dropped them down a little bit, and in some ways forgot about them. But I can't get away from Florida. I mean, when you run Tommy Mace out there and you run Leftwich out there, 2 guys that have been in the fire in SEC play for all 3 years. They've been weekend rotation guys. They got a big bullpen. Hunter Barco goes on Sundays for him, who's an uber-talented guy as well. And that offense is solid, too. So it's hard to get away from Florida. But if I got to look at the top teams, it's got to be, for me, Florida and Vanderbilt, obviously. And I really like Ole Miss and Mississippi State over Arkansas. I know Arkansas is going to be number 1 again. I just think when Nikhazy comes back for Ole Miss, the way Gunnar Hoagland is throwing the ball right now for Mississippi State, who leads the nation in strikeouts, like he's taking his game to a whole different level. Nikhazy is supposed to be back this weekend. We know what he can do. And Derek Diamond, look,
yes,
Sunday guy is up to. I mean, he's up to 97. I mean, who sees 97 on Sundays, right? And so it's really good. The back end of that bullpen is pretty good too. I think there's enough offense there. So I like Ole Miss, and I really like Mississippi State because of the depth of the pitching and the veteran guys that are in that lineup. So somebody asked me the other day how many SEC teams go to Omaha. I said, look, we could see 4 in Omaha this year. I really like those 4, and I'm not even counting Arkansas just because I think Arkansas, I'm a little bit concerned about their pitching, and I don't think their offense is quite as strong as you look at their offense right now. Look, it's 13th out of 14 teams when it comes to batting average right now in the SEC, and so I'm a little bit concerned their pitching is 12th in the SEC, but yet they're ranked number 1 in the country in the Baseball America poll. It just came out an hour or so ago, waiting on D1 poll to come out. But I don't like Arkansas as much as I like Ole Miss and Mississippi State, Vanderbilt, and Florida.
He is Ben McDonald on the Out of Bounds show in the Dos Equis guest line. We're talking SEC baseball as we week 1 is in the books. Head to week 2 of conference play. What about LSU? 4 weeks from now, would it surprise you at all if they've taken some kind of giant step forward, Ben?
I don't know if it's going to be a giant step forward, but I can see a step forward. I can see a step forward for sure. But they got to get it figured out in the bullpen. I really believe that, because, it's so tough. You take your starter out in the 6th. He's into the 6th inning with runners on base. Who you bringing in? How are you going to bridge that right now? So some guys in that back end of that bullpen are going to have to step up. I think these young hitters will get better the more at-bats they see. But it's awfully difficult at the end of the day. So LSU's got some question marks to me. But I still like their talent. Remember, this freshman class LSU has, number 2 rated freshman class in the entire country, only behind the University of Miami. So there's a lot of talent down there. It's just a matter of counting on freshmen in big-time situations in SEC play. We see that times it works and other times it really doesn't work. And so I think LSU has a chance, but I think you're going to see them, in week 6, week 7, week 8, week 9 of the SEC. I think you're going to see them take a bump up.
Ben McDonald on the Out of Bounds show. Blake?
Yeah, Ben, I know hitting is cyclical and you can have ups and downs, but when you look at Mississippi State and you see how the pen and the starters play, and like you mentioned, it seems they have enough arms that if you have a guy go 4 innings, that's okay. You can manage that. When you look over the course of an SEC season as teams and everything develop over the course of 30 games, what's better to start with and long-lasting, and what's more difficult to come up with, that pitching depth as you go or the hitting, I guess? And that leads back to, I think Mississippi State hit like 216 against LSU on the weekend. That's not going to win you a ton of series over the course of the season, it doesn't seem.
No, it's not. But because you pitch it so good, you're always going to be in ball games. And that's where Mississippi State is. If you look at what they've done this year, right, they've been able to hold opponents down in the latter parts of the game to give that offense just a chance. And when you're so strong on the mound, that tells me that you're going to be in a lot of ball games, and you're going to have – the offense doesn't have to be great. I mean, really, if you think about it, Mississippi State scores 4 or 5 runs a game, there's a very good chance they win that ball game because of the pitching depth. So if you had to give me one or the other, I always take the pitching because I really feel like the pitching is going to give you a chance. There's a little bit of a concern for me, and Coach Lim, we talked about it, talked to him about it before the ball game on Friday. I was kind of surprised at the defense in the SEC, right? Some of the teams that we normally see towards the top of the SEC playing defense are down towards the bottom this year. And I went and looked. Florida's dead last in the league. They're normally right at the top, in defense. Ole Miss and Mississippi State are 12th and 13th, and LSU is even 9th in team defense. So that's a little bit concern for me. I think Mississippi State's defense, LSU's defense, Ole Miss and Florida's defense needs to get better, and get back to where they normally field the baseball. And that can be a little bit of an issue for State and for everybody else. So I think team defense is a little bit of a concern for Mississippi State, although I love the freshman Forsythe. I mean, since making the move and putting the true freshman Forsythe at shortstop, Mississippi State's defense seems to be a little bit better.
Ben McDonald talking SEC baseball on the Out of Bounds show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. All right, so Ben, how many Baltimore Orioles games will you call this year?
I will call half the schedule. I'll call 81 of them on the Masson Network. Jim Palmer, the Hall of Famer, will do half of them, and I'll do the other half, And so it's a busy schedule for me. I'll do nearly 130 games this year, counting college and pro baseball. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be super busy. But it's fun. I don't enjoy the travel, but I enjoy when they say play ball and we get to watch the big league hitters. And, of course, one of the State's guys, Jordan Westberg, has been in camp with the Orioles, and from what I understand, they really like him. They like his talent. He's been in big league camp. Now, I'm obviously not going to make the team this year, but I could see in the near future. I mean, he is a stout young man, as you guys know, and has a really good body. I don't know if he's going to play short or third, but he's going to be somewhere on the left side of that infield for sure. So I'm looking forward to seeing some Orioles. It's fun for me to go do pro games and see some of these SEC guys come through that we covered when they were 18, 19, and 20 years old, and then all of a sudden you see them start to surface at the big league level. It's always a lot of fun.
Ben McDonald on the Out of Bounds show. All right, so Ben, I didn't realize this. I heard you on somewhere on an interview within the last few weeks talking about how you played basketball at LSU, and I was as a kid in the '80s, I was a college hoops junkie. Went to a bunch of SEC basketball tournaments. Went to a ton of games with Dale Brown, and remember all those teams, and was obsessed with Chris Jackson as a kid. So how many points did you average in your senior year in high school?
Ooh, I want to say about 25. I think my junior and senior year here at Denham Springs High School. So, I could shoot it a little bit. I went to LSU actually on a basketball scholarship to play, on the perimeter because I had a pretty good shot. But I got over there and Ricky Blanton tore his knee up, and then Nikita Wilson, who you might remember,
I do remember,
on academic probation. And so as a true freshman, I got to start the first 7 games of the year for Dale Brown and LSU, But I was starting on the interior, at 6'6", 6'7", 190 pounds. I was getting thumped around in there a little bit, but I was just happy to be on the court and be playing basketball, which was really my first love growing up. I loved the game of basketball, and I was probably one of those ADD kids before there was such a diagnosis. So I'd like to get up and down the court and go, But I was also a kid that played football, baseball, and basketball from the time I was 5 years old, going all the way up, And so I still encourage kids today, man, don't specialize on one thing. Get out and play them all right now, and you'll have time to really just focus on one when the time is right.
People talk about how great a recruiter, one-on-one, living room guy, Dale Brown was. Talk about him recruiting you.
Yeah, Dale, it's just hard to tell Dale no, right? I mean, he's just one of those guys that can make you believe that you can do anything. He makes you feel good about yourself. He knows how to tear you down at times, but builds you back up. And that's what I really loved about Dale. Some people say, well, he wasn't the greatest X and O's coaches in the game. And maybe he wasn't. It's hard to say. But as far as wanting to play for a guy, believing in what he is trying to teach you, and really caring about you, I don't know if there's anybody better. I still get the text messages, the emails every day, every weekly about motivational type stuff. And he's just an awesome man, I remember he came and recruited me. And Mississippi State had just been to my house. Ron Polk came in, and because I'd kind of narrowed my choices down to Mississippi State and LSU, and Polk came in, and Bob Boyd was the basketball coach, and John Brady came in. He was the assistant basketball coach at State at the time, and they came into my living room, and Brady always tells a story. He leaned over and told Pokey, he said, man, we got no chance of getting this kid. And Pokey says, why not? And he said, man, just look up in the air. And they were in the game room talking to me. We had 2 LSU ceiling fans going. And he said, we got no chance of getting McDonald. But, I thought hard about Mississippi State, and I love the baseball program because I've always said it when I was growing up and in high school. State had the program. Like, they were going to World Series, and they were at the forefront of SEC baseball, But then my senior year in high school, some guy by the name of Skip Bertman, who had just taken over at LSU, brought LSU to the College World Series for the first time. I said, maybe this Bertman guy's on to something, and maybe he's going to do okay. And so I ended up going to LSU, which is hard, man. When you grow up 20 minutes from the university,
sure,
it's hard to get away like a lot of local kids end up at their local universities, because when you grow up going to football, baseball, and basketball games like I did, it's just at the end of the day, it is hard to get away from your school.
We got a couple of minutes here. Did you, I'm sure you did you become a big Joe Burrow fan?
Yes, I did, and that's what it takes sometimes to win. You got to have surprises come in. And Burrow, we all know the story, didn't play much at Ohio State, transfers to LSU, and basically called LSU and said, hey, I want to come to LSU because you guys need a quarterback. And Lord knows we did at the time. And I don't think anybody thought even for a second how good he was going to be, because his first year at LSU, he was just kind of okay. But then this new offensive coordinator, Brady, came in, a young guy from the Saints, and he said, boys, we got a horse here, and we got to let him run. And boy, did he ever run a couple years ago in college football, So instantly became a fan of Joe Burrow, the way he played the game, the way he managed the game, and I'm still pulling for him at the NFL level as well.
Golly, great player. Great player. I hope he does well, too. Ben McDonald on the Dos Equis guest line. Ben, we appreciate it. You do a great job. Hopefully we can catch up again in a couple of weeks.
Look forward to it. Take care, guys.
Thanks, Ben. Ben McDonald, former LSU great, SEC Network And he'll call 81 games for the Baltimore Orioles. I didn't realize Jim Palmer called the other 81. I had his baseball card in 1981 or whatever, 7 years old. Thought that dude was a baller. What was that? Earl Weaver, Cal Ripken was just coming in to his own, yeah. And then he becomes the Iron Man. Orioles. Showalter made a stop through there, Blake, as the manager.
That's correct.
A couple of years ago, and made the playoffs.
Also correct.
Yes. What'd you think, man? That was fun to have.
Yeah,
that's the first. I can't believe I'm saying this. That's the first time we've had Ben McDonald on.
That's correct. I spent all beginning of last year trying to get his contact info, and I could never get a hold of it. And so then finally we worked that out this season. But yeah, I've grown up listening to Ben. You know, he's been doing SEC baseball for a little while now.
He has,
so,
and does a super job. He's kind of the number one guy.
I
mean, as far as
yes. I put him, and I honestly, I can't believe I'm saying this too because he's a Tennessee guy, but Chris Burke is really good as well.
Burke. That's right.
Those two guys, and then obviously Kyle Peterson being an analyst is fantastic too.
Kyle does a super job.
But he's national more so than just SEC, whereas Ben really hones in on LSU and the SEC.
Right.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who knows when Ben, it's very much like when Ron Polk or John Cohen says something, like when Ben McDonald says something about baseball, you can almost take that to the bank as gold because he knows the game.
Yes. 6'6", 6'7", number one pitcher, ace for LSU, and started his first 7 games because of some. I remember Ricky Blanton, by the way, but started his first 7 games at LSU, and then of course baseball full time. So we mentioned our players of the week, Blake, earlier. Hoagland was from Ole Miss, and I know you could go with some others. And Derek Diamond looks great, but I'll go with Hoagland. Almost threw a complete game on Friday. Gets him in the win column again in a close Auburn game on Friday.
1-0. Yeah,
Hoagland was fantastic. So he's your XL bottled water game player of the week, and brought to you by water@mydoor.com. It doesn't get any better. They'll deliver water to your door. And 50% off initial order, code BOUNDS, water@mydoor.com. And so that we'll go Gunnar Hoagland for Ole Miss. And then the player of the week for Mississippi State, I could easily go Bednar, but I'll go McLeod since he took it on Friday and win against Jayden Hill. Brought to you by XL Bottled Water and Coffee, water@mydoor.com. Go there today. Order your system. We've got one here in the Out of Bounds Bank Plus studio. It is great. Water@mydoor.com. 50% off your initial order. Promo code BOUNDS. Water@mydoor.com. The Out of Bounds show is also brought to you by Chris Corley, Angel Oak Home Loans. He'll shop the best rates for you. Chris Corley, Angel Oak Home Loans. Chris Corley, Angel Oak Home Loans. He'll shop the best rates for you. And the show is also presented by Briarwood Wine and Spirits. Nate's gotten in some really, really good bourbon at Briarwood Wine and Spirits. We'll see you tomorrow.